Hi everybody, this time let us talk about reference letters for temporary resident visa to Canada. So you're coming to Canada, you're planning to come to Canada, and you're looking to get this reference letter from your employer. What to include, what not to include in there. Now, first of all, of course, it should have the name of your organization and your position. However obvious it might be, sometimes I hear the news or see the reference letters where they clearly say, look, Rajiv, Sanjesh, whatever the name you could imagine, is working here for the last 5 years and this is his salary. That's it. What is the position of a person? I never mentioned. So again, organization name, position you're working at, when you have started working. So the longer you work in an organization, the better. If you have started working a couple of months ago and you were asking for paid leave or unpaid leave, that sounds a little bit fishy. So just again, make sure that you're working long enough and these vacations sound somehow reasonable. Now, third thing, which I have already mentioned, is of course salary. How much money you're actually making, what is your salary per year or per month, and you know, it's a little bit tricky, of course. It could have its pros and cons. Of course, if your income is stable enough, it's reasonable enough, if it sounds pretty good, so yes, feel free to mention it. I mean, if you're making at least a couple $1,000s per month, that's pretty good. Should be pretty good for your country, if you're not from Switzerland, of course. Now, if your income is roughly about $200-300 per month, I do not want to recommend you to hide this information or not to show this information. It would be 100% up to you. There's no right and unique answer for everyone, because if you do not demonstrate it, that could raise questions. If you demonstrate it, that could raise questions again. I mean, what are the chances for the person who's making about $200-300 per month to stay in Canada even illegally and try to work, I don't know, sneak out and try to work in McDonald's, right? Because per week in McDonald's you would make much more than that, than your monthly salary in your home country. So keep in mind that this could be a little bit of tricky. Now, important point to make, or advice if you will, if your employer is aware of your trip to Canada, 100% absolutely mention that, okay? That could be that small tiny drop of confidence which you put on the scales of your case. So visa officers should see that yes, you're actually have informed your employer about your upcoming trip. So this adds a little bit of points, just a little bit, but still could be enough to prove that your employer is aware of your paid leave or unpaid leave, whatever it could be. You're going to Canada and you're expected to get back from this trip. It's very important. If your employer is not aware, I mean, it's not a bad situation. Not everyone wants to inform that, but if he or she is, make sure that you mention that. Now, last but not least, language of this reference letter. We discussed it before, whether it should be in English or in French or in your native language. Like, to be precise, if your employer speaks English and is able to communicate in English or in French, when visa officer picks up a phone and dials him or her, save yourself a couple of bucks. Yeah, well, draft the letter in English or in French. If not, if you have serious doubts, do not ever draft this letter in English and French. Don't. Just make sure that it's drafted in whatever language you're communicating, and afterwards translate it, okay? Otherwise, you might face a situation when visa officers are dialing the office of your employer, to verify the information, and your employer is not able to communicate. Now, what would happen next? I mean, somebody else has actually drafted the letter, the employer probably has signed it blindfolded, and that's it, voila. I mean, your case is just closed, probably even with misrepresentation accusation. So make sure that you're very careful with that. Make sure that the letter has a seal or official stamp and has a letterhead. If you could attach the business card of your employer, that's good enough. Got questions or you want to have samples of employer reference letters, comes to us. We would be able to help you. Our contacts at the end of the video.